And here we are back again for a Thursday, a Think and Link Brand New World. We have two amazing guests on our stage today, and I'm going to do my best to introduce a couple of pieces before we get started. And the first one is, as we talk about marketing and design and brand and the importance of it, if you dig deep enough, you start to realize that design is evil, and evil in the sense that it contributes to us wanting things or desiring things we don't really need. And in the essence of that is the conflict. You can look at the oil industry and say that they're a horrible industry, but really the marketing, communications, advertising, design, all those industries create desire for things that we don't need. So it's actually worse. But in those situations where you get to be in a role, and these two individuals get to be in those roles, you are creating something that you both want and need, and it's good for the planet at the same time as it's good for you. So that is the elegance of these two guests on our stage today. But before I hand it over to Kelly and they do their introductions, I want to make sure that we give a little bit of time to our primary sponsor, Capsule, here in Minneapolis, a special projects firm that works on interesting, complex brand design and marketing problems that clients present to us. And there's in the chat a wonderful little list of links for you to browse as you spend time listening to our conversation. Enjoy those if you will, and also put your chat or your comments or questions for our guests there as we go. So I'm going to hand it over to Kelly to tie up any knots that I missed or.
Well, actually, no, we're obviously very excited. Thank you, Erin. Excited to have Jessica and Erin here today. And I won't do their introductions justice. So I would love to turn it over to each of them to give a little background on your journey and where we are today. And then we'll jump right in with questions. So Jessica, I'm going to turn it over to you and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Capsule. And thanks, Erin Wallace, for sharing this hour with me. What a treat. Erin and I are real life buddies. So we talk about work a lot, but this is going to be a really great opportunity to dig in. So I have been at Impossible Foods for the last 5 years since we launched the first Impossible Burger with David Chang. Before that, I had a career in sustainability, marketing, and communications. Both social impact, environmental impact were my focus areas, and worked with giant brands like the Coca-Cola Company and small startups, launching them out of the gate, when Solar City was 30 people, and now they're quite large. So have a lot of experience in storytelling for kind of game-changing, purpose-driven companies. Now I'm at Impossible Foods. I'm the newly changed title, VP of Marketing, focusing on partnerships and brand and the experience of our brand. And before that, I led the communications team. And that is it for now. Over to you, Erin.
No, thank you, Jessica. Thank you.
Erin. Impressive, Jessica. Yes, I'm Erin Wallace. Happy to be here. Very happy to be sharing a stage with Jess. We're always plotting a way to bring our work talks, I guess, into a more public forum, and here it is. But yes, we spent a lot of time talking about Impossible and thredUP. I've been at thredUP for about 3.5 years now. I came on board as the brand director and spent a little time there leading some of the newer campaigns that we did, like Choose Used with Olivia Wilde, and really just where we started really stepping into the spotlight with the importance of thrift and secondhand. And we've kind of just been running that race ever since. I've been in the role of VP of integrated marketing for the last, year and a half, couple of years, where I oversee more of, the day-to-day, the grind, the creative and campaigns and messaging and strategy around the brand. So, and before that, really my background, I've been in the used clothes trade for my entire life. I think I was born thrifter from the 90s, and then landed at Crossroads Trading, which is a national brick and mortar resale chain, and kind of grew that company to where it is today. and headed up their kind of marketing, communications, brand, everything there. And and then decided I wanted to jump on the rocket ship, which is online thrift, which I swore was impossible when it started. But I'm very happy to be wrong about that. So happy to be here.
That's great. Oh, Jessica, Erin, we're so excited. And rarely is it that we have such good friends come on the stage together. I know, Jessica, we were talking before Erin actually joined us on our pre-chat. You were looking for something to disagree about because there's really nothing that you can think of that would add any conflict to the conversation, which we're not looking for by any means. But certainly excited to jump in. There's a lot of topics we'd love to cover, and I wish we could go for 2 hours. But I'll dive right in. We had actually chatted about this in some previous conversations with regard to how we're connecting with customers to date. So as consumers become more interested in how their food is grown and processed, how their clothing is produced, recycled, curious how both of your respective organizations are engaging with your customers about these interests, and how you're ultimately building trust with consumers through transparent practices. I know we talked about supply chain. Obviously, this applies to marketing. Would love your perspectives. Jessica, you want to start? And then Erin, would love you as well.
Yeah, you bet. So Impossible Foods' mission, I think not everyone knows, it's actually to completely eliminate the need for animals in the food system by 2035. So clock is ticking. And that's not a randomly chosen date, right? I mean, there is a point at which the resources that we have, to grow the food, just, feed the animals, to, slaughter the animals for food, that entire system collapses. And we're running out of land and water, and greenhouse gases are being emitted, at a staggering rate by this industry. So it needs to change. So Impossible thinks about everything we do through scaling to the point that we can hit this 2035 goal. So that being said, when you think about our business strategy, we're really thinking about scale at all times. But we know that, pushing for scale, driving for scale, there are choices we make along the way that are completely about that environmental mission that we need to over communicate about so that consumers are on this journey with us. Pat Brown, our founder, threw down early on, we are going to be the most transparent food company in the world. We didn't know exactly what we meant by that, and how we were going to defend that, but it was a North Star for us. So what we've tried to do is every decision we make from the ingredients, we choose to, manufacturing processes, we try to just over communicate, overshare on every platform, in every owned way, through communications and PR, through Pat just being incredibly, accessible and sort of detailed in how he describes, our choices. I think it's a tone, it's a style, it's a commitment to sharing as much as we can. Mm-hmm. And I think it's working. I think there's rightly so, there's a lot of skepticism around, the processed and health and these kind of topics that consumers care about. So it's on us, as the manufacturer, to help them understand that all food is processed, and help them understand the health profile of our products compared to what they're replacing. Give them the data that they need. We found that data, actual numbers, is actually what consumers use to make decisions. So the more we can give, the more they'll be on this journey with us, because they'll see that every decision we make is filtered through the environmental mission of the company, and we're gonna keep giving them the information they need in the way they need it to stay with us. So that's how we approach it.
Yeah, that's great, because it's certainly marketing, storytelling, but science-based, factual, certainly in the food space.
100%.
Consumers, statistics, it matters. So Thank you, Jessica. That's very helpful. Thank you. Erin, let's talk about your approach at thredUP.
Yeah, weirdly, I just totally disagree with Jessica. I'm totally kidding. We don't. I think we track very closely in that regard that, and I think Jessica would probably agree, like when you're bringing something new to a mass market, you have to be super transparent and provide a lot of data and overshare, especially for us, we were selling used clothes to a mass market that may not have considered buying them or have negative associations with them. So, and we're doing it online, so you can't even like go into a store and touch and feel. So I think like from the very beginning, we knew that that was incredibly important to the process, was to provide as much detail as we could about what to expect. And then, you know, as we grew and our customer base grew and the online secondhand resale space grew, then we kind of pivoted into like how transparent we can be around the impact of buying used over new. And then it's the same theory though, right? Then it's like, okay, we've gotten you to this point where you're willing to try it. Now we need to be super transparent about why it's important. So at that point, like transparency is built into pretty much every campaign that we do, whether it's something like our fashion footprint calculator, which was really in response to data, which you know, we put a survey came back and said that people really wanted to reduce their fashion footprint, their impact, but they actually didn't know what contributed to it. So it was just this calculator, you know, answer a few fun, easy questions and actually see like the way you purchase, take care of, and discard your clothes affects your footprint and like tiny, easy changes. And that's all like presented so transparently, so fun, so easy, and measurable. I think that has just always been a winning formula. It's like, make it fun and easy, but like give some real meat to the results.
Right. That's great.
Good choice of words, some real meat.
Sorry about the meat.
Yeah. Words. I also just have an idea, Erin, because we have a calculator too that allows you to, you know, calculate the impact of every burger you eat. We need to do some sort of calculator mashup at some point. Put a pin in it. We'll come back to it later.
That's a good idea. A little
collaboration.
That's a collaboration. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. So back to Jess, the question of how you, it's really nice when we get to see behind the scenes and how you came to market and how this came to life. My personal story was Sarah Day, actually on our team, insisted that we go over to a burger joint and have an Impossible Burger. And my dad had switched to vegetarian and I tried the veggie burgers, but I couldn't get there. You know, each time other variations on the idea, but she brought me over there and I tried it. It was absolutely amazing. And I compel everyone to at least try it, expose yourself to it and see if you like it. You might be surprised. But that go to market to go through restaurants, fascinating as a method to get us introduced to this concept, because you really had to break some old memories for people, right, around what a veggie burger is, which I don't even want to say that word out loud for various reasons. But can you give us a little bit more insight of that and when that all went down and how that went down?
Oh yeah, you bet. And I mean, let's be clear. Pat Brown is a genius. I mean, seriously, the way that he thought about this, you know, from the beginning, which was, all right, you have this giant environmental problem, and the only way you can solve it is to, you know, make that same thing that consumers love, just make it differently, right? And make it from plants and, you know, over deliver on everything they're looking for: taste, health, and sustainability as a distant third. So knowing that, the next sort of, you know, addition to the strategy was, well, where do people go to get an experience of food that is the absolute best experience, you know, that they could possibly get? They go to restaurants, and then within the restaurant space, what restaurant is the epitome, you know, of tastemaking, and what chef is the epitome of tastemaking? And so that began our go-to-market strategy, you know, that thinking that you have to go where meat lovers already are, You need to work with the forces, around, this market that is just driving so much, demand for meat, and go to the center of it. So that was the strategy. And it really did work, because chefs are rock stars, they're tastemakers, they're influencers, and so working with chefs and their culinary, philosophy and profile, it was just a major benefit, I think, for Impossible to go that direction. And now we're in a huge number of grocery stores across the country. And that is fantastic, because no consumer is more than 10 minutes from an Impossible burger now. So that scale, back to that scale, is super, super important. But we are continuing the strategy of chef-led, launches of products at restaurants that consumers are, dying to go to, because it's just a winning approach. And we really credit the chefs that have partnered with us for really getting us to where we're at today.
Yeah, that's huge. That was brilliant. It was, because you did have to break a lot of paradigms, and that definitely does it. That's really impressive. What I forgot to. So, Erin, your world, fast fashion, not your world, but your evil empire world, right? Is fast fashion the Antichrist? Is it an evil empire, or is there a symbiotic relationship there? It's a fascinating contrast that's out there, and I'm curious about your perspective on fast fashion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, right? Because thredUP, we sell 35,000 brands across hundreds of categories, like literally millions of unique items are listed right now. So we're a reflection of what's in the market. That we are accessible to everyone. We're secondhand. We're not the luxury niche. We have that, and we're not, only for Gen Z. We have that. We're like literally the gamut. So there's tons of fast fashion on our site.
Yeah.
So Antichrist, too strong a word.
Okay.
I think that, but obviously, the US or the world, actually, we produce like 100 billion garments a year for 8 billion people. And in the US, we throw away 36 billion garments a year. All but a tiny fraction of those could have been resold or recycled. So like we just have an overproduction problem that's like not arguable, and an underutilization problem as a result. So it's kind of like, is fast fashion a part of that problem? Yes, but I would argue so is pretty much every traditional retailer. We don't need more new clothes, but we keep making them. There is kind of, I think, if we were going to look forward and see like the more alarming trends are things where we see like the rise of Shein, which is a hot topic right now, massive, which we don't have fast fashion now, we have ultra fast fashion. We've surpassed, Shein makes fast fashion look slow and dated. They can get new styles to market in 3 days, and their app downloads just surpassed Amazon. Their price points are considerably lower than fast fashion. And they developed this scale almost like invisible to everything but their core consumer, Gen Z. So we really have to kind of like look at the trend lines and go like, that's crazy. Fast fashion is accelerating in this specific category. And what does this mean about a generation like Gen Z, who we know is incredibly like climate aware, deeply concerned with sustainability. They say they want to shop from sustainable brands, but they also are Gen Z. Like they're young and they're broke and they're very trend driven. They live on social media and TikTok and YouTube, and like they want to look cute. So you have like all of these contradictions hitting each other. And until we can catch up, like we as companies have an obligation to like move as fast as the fastest person, and not expect consumers to simply like stop being consumers. I think that, kids are always going to be kids, and I love how climate aware they are, and they will grow into an ability to spend more and maybe make more sustainable choices. But we need to be there to meet them where they are and figure out a way to like intercept some of the damage that's being done by the rise of these ultra fast fashion companies.
Yeah.
So like I'll take, an H&M maybe, or somebody who like there is a considerable amount of investment in sustainability and in fair labor practices. Not perfect. I'm not celebrating fast fashion, but I'm just saying there's been enough focus over the years on those companies, but we've got a whole other situation rising in the background. So it's a lot it's a big question.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that is that is incredibly elegant, and the fact that we have to catch up, we have to keep moving, and we're not going to stop the economic machine, of consumption, but we can make it smarter along the way, much more responsible.
Right. I'd actually love to. I want to geek out for a second, because we talked about statistics and how small changes making an impact. Would love to hear from both of you, just some stats around what you're seeing in terms of consumption. So, and then we'll start, Jessica, with you with regard to, what's the most effective way to reduce your environmental footprint? You say it starts with your plate, starts with food, but let's talk about some statistics in terms of environmental impact that you can share, and then Erin, the same with you and as well.
Yeah, well, back to that calculator idea. So on our website, impulsivefoods.impact, you can look at, truly what huge impact a single person can have in terms of their food choices. So every Impossible burger is 96% less land, 87% less water, and generates 89% less greenhouse gases than what it's replacing. So that's really key, though. It's the replacement. It's the, that if you're just eating an Impossible burger on top of your steady diet of meat, that's not actually going to do the environmental, benefits that we're trying to accomplish. We have to replace the animal version. And when we do, that huge amount of savings across land, GHG, and water is what a single person, can drive. And so you play with the calculator, you see, that impact scaled, across, a person's lifetime or a community's, sort of, consumption. There's cities now across the country that are going, Meatless Mondays has been a huge driver of getting, big groups of people to go, meatless in a 1 day a week fashion for a long time. But that's expanding now, where cities are adopting that and going, meatless as a large community. So those numbers just grow exponentially, and so we've done, a bunch of research into what consumers really know and understand about the connection between what they eat and climate change, plate to planet connection, we call it. And, they don't know a ton, especially we did a recent study with kids. We've focused a lot on Gen Z and younger generations of late, because we entered the school system, because that's an area where we could drive a huge amount of, environmental impact and awareness with this younger audience, to Erin's point, that innately cares about these issues. So and what we found is they don't know, the kind of extreme amount of greenhouse gases, created by the, animal meat products they eat. But when they learn about it, they're super motivated to take action. This is the one area, that they can really control. They can't control energy. They can't control, some of the huge systems that are major contributors in addition to the animal agriculture industry, but they can control what's on their plate, what their parents buy, what they buy. So it's empowering, it's a environmental solution that tastes delicious. And I think the knowledge, though, of the what we found with messaging is that the more information you can share in numeric format, the data, that will actually drive a major shift in adoption. So we're really taking that information and trying to sort of make that data come to life in marketing, and you'll see us playing with that with projects coming forward.
That's great. It's not as intimidating. Again, I obviously I've looked at your website, and the way that you present the information, it seems like I can make a change. It's just a small change, and I can have an impact or make an impact.
Yeah, I think it's the tone too. Like we really have, I mean, my middle name is Hope, but the company's, driver is optimism, really. Like that is an incredibly important strategy, because everyone knows the polar bears and the doom and gloom did not work. That's not a motivator. We have to somehow harness the possibility, that there is here, and your direct role in it as a consumer, in that sort of creating that, biodiverse, turn back the clock on climate change reality, that is delicious and nothing is sacrificed. Like they have to see that world and want to be part of that. It's not about shame or guilt. So right. I think numbers are important, and optimism is key.
That's great. No, thank you, Jessica. Wonderful. Erin, let's talk about first, if you could please share some numbers on the volume of clothing we buy, or something to give us a sense of the magnitude of, and then why it makes sense to buy secondhand and the impact that makes.
Yeah, I think, I mentioned it earlier, but it's worth saying again, because it really is kind of like a staggering number. These are my favorite stats. Because I think people don't realize the scale of the overproduction issue. That is 100 billion garments every year. There are 8 billion people on the planet, and that is accelerating. Like that production is accelerating. Just the US, we have 800 million people. We throw away, that's not even like what we're purchasing. We throw away 36 billion garments. Like it's just the market
admitting, like in the landfills, isn't there that problem as well? When they get to landfill, it's still a problem, right?
Absolutely, it's a huge problem. And all of them, again, save like the smallest percentage. I think there's upper 95% of what's thrown away could have been recycled or resold. So this kind of like take, make, discard, linear, traditional fashion approach needs to be made circular through reuse, repair, recycling. And extending the life of a garment reduces its carbon impact by 82%, like 82%. That move from linear to circular is vital to reducing the harm that fashion has on this planet. I would love to say that everyone's going to stop making that 100 billion garments every year. But, if we could even slow it to just keep it there and really focus on adding circularity to the current models, we would make some pretty significant improvements. I want to echo the use of both data points with people so they understand and can kind of right size the scale of the issue and communicating with consumers, but also doing it with optimism, because I can't underscore enough how much shame, guilt is not a motivator for people to change their behavior in a meaningful way. They want something that feels fun and makes them feel like they're doing something positive. So it's like you can understand the problem and deliver a fun solution without it being like, and now you have to change your lifestyle completely. Like that's really important, that you're still, for us, getting all of the same like thrill, fun, joy, even better, even more than traditional shopping, because obviously like thrift has a lot of other benefits, in addition to just the sustainability and being, everything you could possibly imagine. It's much easier on your wallet too. So, remembering to communicate all of the range of values that you offer, not just the reason why you shouldn't do something else is super important to the strategy.
Yeah, that's
can I ask Erin a question real quick? I actually don't know this, Erin. Have you guys ever tried to create visuals of that kind of 100 million pounds, concept? That's something we're playing with right now. Like we haven't done enough, kind of visualizations of the problem and the potentials, and how it would look when we accomplish our goals in 2035. And we're thinking about that. Have you guys done anything?
Most of the visualizations we do, like our annual resale report, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So it's a lot of kind of data visualization, but I think you're talking about maybe more of kind of like the emotive punch of what like 100 billion garments looks like to the size of the actual population. Yeah. What was that? There was an amazing visualization that kind of would maybe go down that road that I thought was super effective. Not by us, it was the New York Times, and I believe it was the New York Times, and they did that. It was a wealth indicator, so you could get a sense of like what a billionaire versus like a millionaire, and it was mind blowing. And I think something like that could be really interesting to play with for people to start to understand the scale of the problem. You can say 100 billion versus 8 billion, but like it's something about it to really make it visceral, I think would be effective.
Yep. I mean, definitely looking at aerials of the rainforest in Brazil, and where you can see it is jaw-dropping. You can see almost with such precision, you know, the huge, vast amounts of areas that have now been, you know, kind of mowed over and for cattle ranching, and this just, you know, very precise rectangle left for biodiversity. I mean, it is staggering, but I feel like it is on us to help share some of those, you know, images, because I do, to your point about emotion, like that's what, both on the negative side we need to see, but on the positive side, to paint solutions in a way that that also is compelling. I think it would be helpful for both missions, but I'm
sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think, Jess, you guys probably do this too, but like we do a lot of equivalencies that are, you know, grounded in daily activities. You saved enough water to fill the Bellagio fountains 100 times, or you took, you know, 500,000 cars off the road for a year. Like things that can start to paint a picture in a consumer's mind is hugely helpful.
Yep.
That's great. I just love that you. Oh, go ahead, Erin.
No, go ahead.
I know. I was gonna mention.
So excited.
I know. It's great. Because you've both said this, and I love that when you add the positive nature of the optimism, the balance. You talked about you know, changes are going to happen over time, but you can't inspire people by guilting them into it. And Erin, I've heard you say, you know, we love fashion, we love shopping. You know, we don't want to just. We don't love the negative impacts and that self-expression. I think you even mentioned that. I mean, that's key. It's a key part too. You don't have to let go of those. You can, you know, you don't have to, it's not a zero sacrifice, keep it joyful. I think it's just a nice balance that you both, you know, support. And it's obviously evident in the way that you market your products and your organization. So thanks for sharing your perspectives. That's great.
Yeah. I think anybody who knows me, sorry.
No, you go.
I was gonna say, I think, you know, anybody who knows me or knows Jess knows that like I am a total clothing fashion person, like, and I have been forever. I love getting dressed. That is not a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. It's like a huge part of my identity, and I relate to people in that way. It's a form of communication. And, you know, Jess is not a vegan. You know, and it's like, this wasn't like a marching order she brought in to change the world in that way. So, you know, we really come from really authentic places where we're personally, as individuals, unwilling to sacrifice. So how do we have a replacement that's better, as good, gives us all the things we want, and, you know, is a better solution.
Yeah. And not only am I not a vegan, my grandpa was a dairy farmer, and he founded a dairy in Southern California that grew to be one of the most award-winning dairies in California. And all the kids in the family worked on the dairy. And, you know, I grew up going to the dairy all the time, and cows were the family business. His license plate was head of the herd. He had 9 kids, and it was the emblem of our family was a cow. And so like I definitely I personally understood how first of all, we're replacing a giant not a giant you know, not just replacing animals, we're replacing an industry, and that's you know, involves transition, you know, around livelihoods and around, you know, policy, and there's just a lot on the line. And if you cannot empathize and you can't relate to the, you know, what you are replacing, I don't think you're going to be very successful. So I think it's really important that, you know, Impossible's not for vegans. It's, you know, we're for meat lovers, you know, for the love of meat is why we were, you know, created. And I think you have to really, you know, embrace these tensions.
Right.
Yeah. And
I can attest, Erin's fashion is always ridiculously off the charts, and it's so impressive that it's never involves buying anything new. You know, I mean, it truly a testament to the power of that system. But
that's great.
Love that.
We've got everything you need.
It's all out there. It's available to you. Right, all used and all everywhere. I knew this was going to happen. We are like, we got 20 minutes left. I've got 1,000 questions and more keep coming in through the chat.
Yeah.
So we got to make sure we get to those as well. But I want to get to bacon. I personally want to make sure I get to bacon because I feel like I need to put together a protest sign where I can go to the Impossible headquarters and sit out there and protest when is bacon showing up, or is that just not possible? I want to see bacon. And I don't know. Is that, I'm not talking
Aaron,
Canadian bacon. No
so
Canadian
possible.
bacon. It is. Oh, thank you, goodness. Yes, we need bacon to show up very soon. I'm curious about that, and just also give us a little insight into the, you know, the touch and feel and all the other stuff that comes with the product, so people can see into that as well.
It is so much fun to work at a company that is basically an innovation, you know, lab for food. I mean, we are making every product from an animal out there, from fish to dairy to, you know, all sorts of meats. So bacon is definitely on the list. We just launched, you know, our ground sausage in grocery stores and spicy and regular. So home chefs can now cook with that. So you know, bacon is a new form factor, you know, but absolutely, you know, possible, and we're working on it. So stay tuned there. But truly, I mean, it is, it's been super interesting to watch how the R&D works. There's just this platform approach that this team has where they you know, reverse engineered meat at the molecular level to understand what makes it taste like meat. And now they're, you know, they're creating the replacements, but they're taking learnings from one area and applying them to another. So, you know, I think you'll see us coming out with products in a more rapid fashion, because there's just been a lot now of foundational research done that enables the team to come to market, you know, quicker with products. So next year is going to be super fun. And, you know, there's just a lot, there's a lot on the product side going on at Impossible that is delicious to participate in.
I'm sure.
You heard it here first.
Food, I know. Bacon's coming. I thought there was a reason why, but I also do like the line of all the lines, pig out. Well done.
You do. Okay,
Nice.
there's been some
love that.
Yeah, we
Oh
love
my
it
goodness.
too. We don't
I
need
love
to,
it. So clever.
you know,
So
you bought a product
Pig out.
that tastes, you know, and this is actually what is really exciting, right? We're never going to win this unless we make products that in a blind taste test outperform the animal version. And news to come, but we are now doing that, you know. So it is like, you know, absolutely game changing, you know, when we are able to claim this too. So you'll see us coming out with much bolder claims that I mean, talk about numbers, you know, that will convince hopefully a consumer at least to get curious, like, can I really ditch the pig now? Like, is there really a replacement for anything I would want, you know? And then, you know, how good does that feel, right? Like, I didn't have to change a thing. I can still make all the same, you know, food at home that I made before. I'm just making it in a tastier way. You know, cost is also important. You know, we've made concerted efforts to drive the prices down, 20% across the board for our retail products last year. So we know that we'll open up to more consumers when we can get to the price point, and we can best the animal in taste. So, and we're getting there on both fronts. So bacon is coming, more products are on the way. Lots of yeah.
All right. Well, I don't have to make up that. I don't have to make up that protest sign. That's good.
No.
Travel all the way to your office. That's good. Erin, we've got to talk about the Monsters Inc. reference that came up in another interview you did that I thought is so phenomenal, and the image that goes with that. And I wish I could find a link and send it. I probably could quickly, but that scene, how all this stuff, because when I first saw this, I thought, how are they? Like you kind of alluded to as well, like, how are they really doing this? Is this possible? Is there enough margin in used clothing to actually get people to, that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't intuitive, but then you see the scale of it and at scale, which is amazing. So there is a question in there somewhere. I want to understand better the Marie Kondo effect. And what would that, yes. And what happened there. And then also just in general, have you seen a boost in the number of people requesting boxes because of all the moving happening, this great migration of people across the country, like cleaning out stuff and going, hey, I've got a new option. Curious on that.
Well, let's start with the distribution centers, because I think, yes, Monsters Inc., Door Factory, conjure that in your mind. That is, essentially, that's precisely what our distribution centers look like. But it is the first thing that I thought of when I saw them, because they are massive. They're some of the largest garment on hanger facilities in the country, if not the world. And it's all proprietary tech, meaning we had to build it ourselves. There's no infrastructure to sell used clothing online at a scale that would even mean that you could have a meaningful business. And as you alluded to, margins on used clothes, not huge. And we're selling one of one. It's not like we have this depth of SKUs where we can sell, 3,000 of them at a low price and make up the margin there. So it's just kind of like when I first saw the rise of online secondhand, and I worked in brick and mortar and understand the logistics and the finances and the reality of selling used clothes in a brick and mortar environment, I just was like, good luck. How do you photograph, market, list, ship, package, and still have anything to speak for? So it really is a testament to, I cannot underscore enough, the innovation and the infrastructure and the automation that's been built over the last, 12 years. So we have kind of leadership and ops engineering from Netflix and SpaceX and, some really incredibly genius level minds. But on the flip side of that, the experience is actually as just someone walking in, it is kind of magical. And I know I already referenced the Bellagio fountains once, so I'm really looking like I'm addicted to Las Vegas references, but it reminds me of the fountains and when the music comes on and they are all dancing to this rhythm, because we have these stories of stacked carousels and they're all spinning and moving together and then at different ways. And it's like they're dancing. So if you can imagine them filled with millions of articles of clothing and they're spinning and dancing, it's I have this vision for doing that. No one will ever let me do it, but create this dancing Fantasia,
I want in.
Let's do that.
I want to see that.
And a tour.
It's so cool.
We food.
We do tours. Impossible will be there providing all the food. It'll be great. When the world opens back up more completely and fully, I have great desire to get people in there to really understand the magic of what happens. For now, obviously we have tons of amazing associates, and when people want to work at a thredUP distribution center, the first thing they get is a tour to really understand the scale in the world they'll be stepping into. So we think it's pretty powerful. We use it all the time in our advertising and marketing reports. I mean, it just is, there are images that do have an effect on you. It's very, very intriguing. To Jess's point, it's like, just get them intrigued and they'll be like, I gotta check that out. Even if you see that many things, you're like, there's probably gotta be something for me in there, you know?
I would think so.
Yeah. So it's
Right.
Amazing.
pretty neat place.
Amazing. Absolutely
No,
amazing.
I want to
Anyway, I know I've stolen the conversation. Sorry.
No.
Take it away.
There's I'm listening intently. This is great. I'm going to shift gears really quickly because I want to talk a little bit about culture. And I think we can all get a really good feeling of what the culture is like within both your organizations, just from speaking to you today, but would love to hear. I mean, it's defined and cultivated differently within organizations. And I think we can all say that culture is really an important and defining component of building authenticity within teams and retaining, good people. I would love to hear you both describe the culture within your organizations and the difficulties we're all seeing of maintaining that when we're not in a physical office environment. Would just love to hear both of your thoughts. Jessica, if you want to start.
Yeah, we think a lot about this. Because we have this long-term mission, right? And we really want to, I mean, our first employee is still an impossible, and it just, how do you maintain the sort of tight-knit culture that we began with, because we were, a small company that no one had heard about with this crazy mission. And, 10 years later, we just celebrated our, 10-year birthday. We are globally recognized as a leader of this space, and becoming more of a, familiar brand to consumers all over the world. So the size of our company, though it's not, we haven't cracked the 1,000-person mark yet, it's grown quite a bit, but our profile's grown quite a bit. And the team and the ethos that we were founded on, I really feel like has stayed strong. So the way we've been able to do that, I think, is we know that our mission is why every single employee at Impossible is here. We are founded by an academic, who had the best job in the world at Stanford as a biochemistry professor, had no reason to leave. Like, he was tenured and, doing amazing things, invented the DNA microarray and solving, huge, biomedical problems. But I love that he cared so much about this problem that he left all that, founded a business, and that passion that he had for solving this problem it's attracted every scientist that's joined, every marketer that's joined. I mean, we are all here for that purpose. It really is our superpower, right? So how, though, do we create ways to connect with that purpose when our mission is 2035, right? And there's a lot of growth between now and then. We've changed a lot from, in the last 10 years. So I think some of the mechanisms that have been developed, even through COVID, I think have been amazing. Like, our all hands that used to be you'd fight for space in the room to hear Pat talk about, the issue, and a scientist would present on pretty deep science, has now transitioned to, it's a show, it's a production. Our head of communications, Keely Scalprizio, has a fantastic vision for how we use technology to connect, our growing, team around the world now. And part of the all hands, weekly show is embedded in it is a little mini sort of, call it a video production that we do, called Chomps and Gromps, where it's comedy. I mean, it's literally the most engaging, entertaining stuff I watch is in our all hands. So we really use that forum to bring people together. And then there's been lots of focus. We have an amazing D&I leader. So our employee resource groups and our D&I team are all sort of coming together to really bring new levels of engagement, around deep issues, personal issues, and then connecting them back to our mission. So, and on my side, I try to think about, I lead our social good work, which is largely around, how do we plug in and address the underlying issues of food insecurity and get people fed, but do it in a community partnership kind of approach. So trying to get, as many opportunities to touch and feel that work, for our employees is important. I think more than anything, just providing ways to connect each employee that signs on an Impossible to the mission in a tangible, real world way is what we know will work for the long-term kind of culture health of Impossible.
Right. That's awesome. I think it's so great that you've got scientists and marketers, right, behind this mission and the passion. I mean, that's
the liberal arts and the right brains and the left. They're all like mixing it.
It's a mashup.
Yeah.
It's a mashup.
That's amazing.
It's super fun. I know the same as at thredUP. You've got, super right and left brain.
Oh yeah. We are a very data-driven tech company and like with a huge ops infrastructure. So we have like crazy scientists and engineers doing, never before done things. And then we have the liberal arts, myself included. I like to brag when I'm probably the only art history major in the room, which is daily probably, but you need both sides. And our mission is to inspire a generation to think secondhand first. And we're in the lucky position, as you alluded to earlier in the beginning of our conversation, to work for a company where we can truly say that the bigger we are, the more good we do, which means we have to stay in business to fulfill our mission and to actually make real impact. So that means like our culture has to be really business minded, which means you have to make tough decisions. And so the culture is really one of a lot of transparency internally too. Like we're all really bathed in like the numbers and the financials, and everyone is pretty fluent so that we all understand like, the puts and the takes, like, where are we focused and what are we running towards every quarter, regardless of what level you are in the business, you understand the financials. And I think that's a big part of our culture. But then, second, in terms of, being remote, we were always partially remote, and that's a big part of our culture as well. We had, prior to, when I joined, we had what were called maker days. So for 2 days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, you basically worked wherever you wanted to work. You were not supposed to have meetings scheduled, but and you're really just supposed to work where and when you feel is most effective for you, and to try and achieve some level of work-life balance. That comes straight from James, our CEO, straight from the top. And, I think, as we all know, in any organization, like it really does have to be manifested by the founder in order for it to be a meaningful part of the culture. So his belief that like there should be white space for people to think, and that where and how you work is an individual decision, and the result and the output is what matters. So we're very just kind of results driven and not super hung up on how you get there. So that translated fairly seamlessly into like a full remote. We also have offices in the Ukraine and, kind of around the country. So we've always had, that culture and the technology set up in order for us to seamlessly communicate. I will say though, we all are really missing each other. I mean, one of the things, our headquarters is in Oakland. We love the office space. It's a reflection of our values. We miss being there together. And I think there's a lot of the culture, at least within the corporate headquarters here. There's a strong desire for us to share space again and be able to, because we like each other, it's like, and we want to be able to have those brainstorms where you're not rooted to a chair and people want to move around and be creative together. So I think that's very much a part of our culture too.
Right. It's physically connecting. Can't replace that. And hopefully that's
very difficult.
Corner. Yes.
Right.
Thank you both. That's great.
Yeah. I have a feeling, Kelly, we're not going to get to the questions that are in the chat.
I know, and there's some good ones in here.
Oh, I know, some really good questions. I do want to make sure that, we conclude this with a perspective on sustainability and responsibility and these new behaviors that are coming out of the pandemic, as well as just in general, where we're heading as a society. Do you think we're hitting the tipping point as far as, and each of you answer this, and then also what are some of the behaviors you're seeing coming out of this that are inspired or positive in your mind? Jess, do you want to start?
Yeah, I love that question. And it's really motivating for me. When we launched the Impossible Burger, sustainability wasn't even on the list of reasons consumers were choosing this product. Not even on the list. We've done a monthly brand tracker for many years, and really not part of the consideration set. And we've seen that completely shift like in the last 5 years. So I think there's been a global awakening around the urgency of climate change, thanks to IPCC, thanks to the UN, thanks to all the scientific, community that has like really poured resources, not only into the science, but into the awareness driving around the science. So I think that more and more people understand climate change is real. More and more people are beginning to understand the role that animal agriculture plays. I mean, people looked at us like we were crazy 5 years ago when we said that the biggest thing you could do to solve climate change would be to buy a burger. I mean, they literally like laughed. They truly laughed. And
that's great.
And things have shifted so dramatically. And and obviously there's a ton of investment in the space, and there's a wildly proliferating group of companies that are all kind of, now driving similar messaging, that I think also helps. But to see sustainability come up to the third reason, why people are choosing the burger. I mean, it's always going to be taste, right? Like, let's be honest. We are motivated by, just our basic instincts around, I want something that's delicious and yummy. I want to feel good in my body. So health is important as a number 2, but sustainability is now a firm number 3. So, that's a super motivator, for us. And now it's more about how do we tweak the approach, to sustainability, communications and marketing, so that we really nail it, and it becomes, it raises even higher on the list. So I'd say that's probably the thing that just really keeps me inspired. Like we're finally getting to the point too now that we're beating the products from animals just directly in taste and health. So if you get all of these 3 together, we're gonna be able to do this. I'm starting to tip into that perspective, but I will also say really quickly that I think there's going to be some work in the next year or 2 around truly exposing mass amounts of people to these solutions that will tip, and I think it's filmmakers are contributing, data visualizations. There's so much creative work going into exposure of the solutions to create the tipping point, because we've got the solutions. We just have to get more people aware of them. And I think we're going to move into a new phase of solution oriented kind of consumer behavior. But
that's huge. The trifecta.
So that would be a big yes from you, Erin.
Yes, I know we're running out of time, but I echo a lot of what Jess said. Surprise, surprise. But in terms of a tipping point coming, and the awareness and all of the different sources that are contributing to that awareness, plus individuals' personal experience of climate change, in the last handful of years has become more and more real. So we have all of that awareness rising. We saw a lot of behaviors during the pandemic that were already moving in one direction, and the pandemic simply accelerated it. You know, in 2020, I think 33 million people tried secondhand for the first time, and 76% plan to shift more of their spend into the category. So we just have this kind of acceleration of the behavior because we have the scale to be able to offer it, and we have a rise in awareness around the impact of fashion on the planet, all happening together. We do believe that those things are headed for a tipping point. If we're not there already, we may be. So it's a really exciting time. I'm glad that like we're all operating in possible. thredUP are able to operate at the scale that they can to invite as the masses into participating in a better solution for the planet. And honestly, with zero sacrifice, like that's the key.
Mhm.
Yeah, zero sacrifice.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. I have to say we are out of time, and that was a wonderful conclusion to our conversation. And Erin, thank you for suggesting Jess as this pairing. This has been absolutely amazing. And just as my level of excitement when I responded back immediately, which was yes, of course, that would be great, has continued and continues today. So thank you too for participating, for coming and sharing some insights, and hopefully everyone got something out of this. I certainly did. This is absolutely amazing. Kelly, any other final thoughts before we exit?
I want to keep going.
I know, me too.
I can't thank you guys enough. And honestly, this has like sparked a lot of ideas for me about how we might kind of better align these two. I mean, fashion and food are incredibly motivating for consumers if you give them something better to switch to. And I think there's more to be done in kind of combining these conversations. So thank you for allowing us to do that.
It's all in our master plan. We didn't know it until today. Food and fashion. I mean, honestly, it happened today, right here.
That's great.
Right here at this
moment.
moment.
This is a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both, and thank you to our audience for tuning in. And we look forward to following what happens with Impossible and with thredUP moving forward. So, best of luck.
Thank you.
We will be in touch. All right.
All
Take
right.
care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.